deer, down on property side, so none of these are super out of the norm by any means.
Okay, good.
And last year for 23-24, you had 0%, so keep that up, that's fantastic.
Good.
And then the next two pages are kind of hand in hand, but this goes back to the settling that we were talking about. So I like to give him a hard time. One of my commissioners on my board, he says that about anything or everything. In his defense, he is always coming into my office when I have to call my board together to get them up to approve a settlement. So he sees all of our bigger settlements that we have. However, 50%, and this is not for your county in particular, I've scared a few commissioners with that, this is the entire pool. So this is 49 of the 56 counties that this is calculating for over the last 10 years. Indemnity means to make whole. So 50% are resolved without indemnity, which means no payment, whether it be we just determined that there was no coverage, we denied the claim, or the court determined that we owed nothing there, etc. That's where we're sitting with those. And then 34% settled indemnity, that could be through mediation, trial, etc. And then 16% settled medical or bodily injury. So any of the claims that they had injuries on that they needed to pay out in medical bills, etc. there. One of the things I do like to point out, I had one commissioner that was very mad about a settlement that we had done for a wrongful termination claim. On their Excel sheet that I provided, it was $85,000. And I had to ask, well, how much did the plaintiff get? Which was 15. So the plaintiff only got $15,000, but just to settle, it cost $70,000. Thankfully, and that's held against you on your loss ratio. So that didn't cost the county $15,000 to pay that person. It cost them $85,000.
But you know what it really cost them? Their deductible. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's true. Yes, it did. But with that, if you do follow the recommendations,
You'll get your premium.
but if you follow the recommendations of Mackenzie McCarthy, who
You wouldn't have paid it.
exactly, you get your deductible refunded. So there's that. But you know, when you go to trial, that cost that one would have easily jumped up into the six figures. So that is held against you
That's
on
why
your
they
loss
settle what
ratios.
you're saying in a lot of times.
Not necessarily. I mean,
Because
yes,
of the cost,
sometimes
they
because
weigh
of
that out.
exactly. Thankfully, our litigation team is not afraid to go to trial. I mean, if their caseload is heavy, we have multiple times hired outside counsel to represent in court. I've gone to mediations with that. But even sometimes you don't have a choice. So there's one that still gets me hot and heavy when I talk about it, because we went to trial for years and we won. We won the case. But I'm gonna really drive home here. So I'm like, I don't understand why we're sitting in mediation right now. They're like, well, we're sitting in mediation, so hopefully we can settle so they don't appeal. I'm like, if my board finds out I paid them $10, they are never going to let me live that down. And they're like, well, we won't agree for an amount that the board has to approve of. I'm like, it doesn't matter, we won the case. And I'm literally sitting just like this by two experts that have been doing this for decades, and they're laughing at me, and I'm like a toddler. I'm like, we're not paying anything. And then they're like, I came to my sense, I was like, obviously I will go with the recommendation of the experts surrounding me right now, but this is extremely frustrating. Thankfully and not thankfully, the other side started, and she said, I have to defend my son, I'm not settling for anything. And so we didn't have to negotiate. She was gonna appeal for didn't care what amount of money we could have settled for. And so, but that's hundreds of thousands of dollars more that we are now going to invest into defending ourselves on the appeal. So that's always unfortunate. So believe me, I get it. We do not settle everything, but sometimes it is necessary to do so.
Case by case.
Well, does this pie chart show that over 10 years for the 49 counties, half of the cases were settled and half of them weren't?
No, half of them were not settled. So we did not pay out anything. So it might have been settled, but we paid zero.
Okay, so the light is no payment at all, which you could,
Correct.
and then the other, basically another way of looking at it is, half of them we didn't pay, but half of them we came up with some settlement.
Correct. Yes, whether that be through mediation, trial, bodily injury, because there was an injury sustained,
So you got
etc.
50
Yeah,
change.
50-50 there.
Good.
Yep. And then the next page is basically the same thing, just a combination of it. 67% in total resolved without indemnity, and then 33 settled with indemnity or bodily injury. So if you
These
just,
were litigated, the other ones
Yeah.
were,
correct.
oh, okay.
Correct. And then next, we've talked about a few of these people, some of our general counsel and whatnot, but this is all of the contact information for our risk management services. Over there on the left side, we have Dan O'Malley, our public safety risk manager. He was in narcotics for about 20 years. He has been a great resource for us, has gotten some body scanners into a few of our detention facilities, and gotten a lot of grants as well to send law enforcement or jail commanders off to trainings. And then Brandon Harris, he recently just came on with us. He was with the Broadwater Sheriff's Department and retired in December as the undersheriff. One of the things that I've had a few sheriffs tell me is they refer to us as the Montana Association of County Commissioners, not just as the Montana counties. And there has been a palpable tension there when I first started with going in and talking to law enforcement, and these guys have done a great job for that tension to lessen. And I'll give a quick example. There was one county that I wanted to go in and tour originally. When they asked, they had no interest, they were too busy, we're busy, we don't need you to come in and tour, etc. And then finally, I was going into the county recently for personal things going on, and they let us in and they were just like, okay, so why are you here? I'm the one that goes to mediation. Brandon and Dan don't. One of the things that we stress with Brandon and Dan is keep your law enforcement mind, because you are the ones that have to advocate for law enforcement, and we don't have that law enforcement background. However, me just going into mediation and talking about these things, if I've never seen the inside of a detention facility or have never talked to law enforcement about how things actually work, I can't advocate for them properly. So it's important to me, even though I'm not working directly with law enforcement on a day-to-day basis with trainings through Lexipol, all of that jazz, I'm the one that helps with mediation and whatnot, so I want to understand from their perspective how I can better advocate for them. So we were invited to come to the Montana Sheriff and Peace Officer Association convention in Billings. I'm excited to go there. So we'll be doing that in a few weeks once we wrap up renewals, and it has definitely seemed like that tension has lessened a little
That's
bit.
why you get experience is get thrown in jail,
Yeah,
right?
Didn't hurt me none.
I've done tours of the jail, however, I don't want to stay overnight. I keep my criminal history limited as much as
It's nobody's
possible.
business either.
Yeah.
So you gotta
yeah.
check that off the bucket list.
I know,
Well, I can arrange for that tonight.
when we are off of camera, I will give you my criminal history
Yeah.
because it is actually quite comical. However, I'm not gonna do it on a
video.
recording for the county.
I wouldn't recommend you.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's comical, I'll tell you after the camera shuts off, but anywho, it was when I walked in, he asked if I was stalking him, and I told him he might have to get a restraining order, so a little bit of comedy there.
I have
Anywho,
that problem all the time.
yeah. But then we jump into Mackenzie McCarthy, as we had talked, she is our HR and then helps with any sort of like wrongful termination
We've
as
dealt
well.
with Mackenzie a lot.
Yes, she's
We got
great.
her on speed dial.
Right. It's a good and a bad thing. He said the same thing when we were talking out there. He's like, we're on first name basis. And then Karen Alley can also assist in that. However, she focuses more on our land use, zoning, subdivision,
Okay.
etc. So that's her contact information down there. And then we have Nancy Everson, who is our governmental finance director. She's also been doing something recently called Money Mondays. Obviously, balancing the checkbooks here is a little bit different than our own personal pocketbook. So I have had counties rant and rave about how helpful she has been. So if you have any finance questions at all, reach out to
I
her.
just talked to her yesterday, but Justina, are you plugged in with me?
I am. Yep, she's actually coming hopefully soon. I'm waiting on her to send me some dates in person to train.
Excellent.
Great.
And the Mondays thing,
Yep.
is that a Zoom meeting where she?
I believe so, yeah.
Yep,
You
and I
might wanna
guess
kinda listen in on that.
yeah. Well, she set me up with Megan, who I guess sends out the link for that.
Yeah.
So I'm set up for that too.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we have Miss Carly King, who is our IT manager, and she got the member cybersecurity and technology set up. So do you guys use her here?
Well, we're gonna wanna talk to her.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna call her today. She's probably not in the office today.
I don't know what she's got. She's always somewhere. She's
We
very
might
busy.
see if she might be interested in doing RIT, so.
Yeah, she's been, I haven't had any reports back that anybody has even been had any sort of disappointment. I heard you talking about dispatch earlier. That's one thing that's also really nice is we have somebody on call. So that way if something happens at 2 o'clock in the morning with dispatch, you're not having to wait until 8 a.m. the next day for someone to get into the office. Someone's on call to assist with that.
Excellent.
So, she had to kind of pause for a second, with onboarding counties because we just didn't have the manpower.
Yeah, resources.
Yeah, and she obviously wants to do a good job and give her her team wanna give full dedication to the counties and whatnot. And we did hire someone else on and we've gotten really great reports from him as well, or about him as well, so. They're up and moving and doing fantastic, so anything IT related, she's a great resource there. We've even worked with her with our law enforcement division on cameras. So she gets a great rate on cameras. We had one county that had a lot of blind spots, but their budget was very limited. And they were originally quoted $44,000 for cameras, and she was able to come in at just over 15 for her quotes. So, and then we've done set them up elsewhere, and when we check in on them, they're like, oh my god, these cameras are great. So I mean, it's not as if they're cheap cameras from Amazon or anything along those lines. The last thing that I will say with Carly, we are currently working with our broker. We previously had cybersecurity, but we just did not have the knowledge or the manpower to be able to make sure that we were properly making counties follow the multi-factor authentication, proper protocols, etc. Now we do have that with Carly and her team, so hopefully within the next 18 months we'll be able to launch cybersecurity again. That'll be included with the property casualty as well, which I know a lot of counties are doing that, standalone policies with their agents and whatnot. But hopefully we'll be able to offer that to you guys again soon, now that we have the knowledge and the backing for all of that.
Actually, I'm gonna pull that thread a little bit. So we get our cybersecurity is through Morrison Maryland, at least technically. Are you talking about insurance?
Correct, cybersecurity
I'm not
insurance.
sure we have cybersecurity insurance.
Some don't, but
Maybe we should. That may be something to look into. Well, she's addressing the technical aspect, not the insurance aspect.
no, right now just technical. But she's the one with all of the cyber knowledge that is above my pay grade.
Oh,
So,
yeah, it's
PCT.
sophisticated.
oh my goodness, PCT, MCT, and our broker are working together to put together a policy, and she will be the one that is able to enforce all of the protocols that are needed in order to have cybersecurity, like the two-way identification, multi-factor authentication, making sure that just the securities within the county IT department are up to par.
Firewall things that.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah.
When are they planning on getting that going?
Hopefully within the next 18 months. So then we'll have it, so I would say by next year, we'll have it on the same cycle as the PCT renewal.
Gotcha.
Other than that, time, that's me.
You did
Did I miss anything or anything else you
I
wanted to
wish you
address?
could have been more informative.
I have questions, so you'll get an email with a lot more information in there for you.
No, excellent.
Thank you.
Very good job.
Thank you. We're winging it over here, but so far hasn't been horrible. I do have, I don't know if I give these to you or the vehicle insurance cards, new ones.
Probably, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I know you don't wanna give them to me.
Yeah. Usually 9 times out of 10, the commissioners are like, that's above my pay grade. You gotta give it to somebody else. Yeah. Secretary, CNR.
All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you for coming up.
Yeah.
Where'd you come up from? Did you come up?
Today I just came up from Red Lodge, so was pretty easy, but I jumped over, oh god, where was I yesterday? I was in Mineral County yesterday, so I drove from Superior to Red Lodge, and then Red Lodge up here this morning, which wasn't that bad, so. Yeah, I have one in 2 weeks, I go from Scobie to Glacier, so that'll be a fun drive.
Who's
Right there on the highway.
Sounds like a
Look,
country music.
I did, however, there are some commissioners that are like, we meet on the third Tuesday if Monday started on the first and it's a blue moon. And there is no negotiation, no give whatsoever. So it's like sometimes you gotta go from Scobie to Glacier because of that, so we made it work. I've got a lot of miles on my vehicle, but yeah, everyone's like, maybe you should work on your routing. I'm like, no.
You need to petition Mako for an air conditioner.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I should have been that.
Just a little Cessna or something, a little six-seater or something, drag my team around with me.
An old super.
Yeah, what's this extra
Go
5%
crashing down, but
for that airplane that we got?
yeah, right. Be like, it was Muscle Shell's idea, they were the one that recommended this to me.
We're getting a Cessna.
Yeah, exactly, I'm like, you guys are able to use it as well. But, and then I believe you guys have work comp coming this afternoon as well, correct? Yeah.
These were the three here.
Yeah, I think we do. Yeah, I was gonna say, Blue Sites Insurance, yep,
So then,
yeah, they would, do you know if they're part of the blue or the gold group?
they became.
I don't, I just know that they, so when you guys quit doing the
Yeah.
This was
sites
all
went to
one
State
county.
Farm.
Yep,
And then
Became like
it
some sort
broke
of
down
pool
to
per se, some kind of
Yeah.
deal
county
to do all the counties.
about,
Yeah.
this was a
Yeah.
county.
I
this
just, some
was
of
a
them go
county,
individually
and then
through
I don't know
agents,
what's
others
happening
go
out
through
there.
sites,
Well,
and then
there
they
was
have the
some,
blue
there
and
was
the
some
gold group,
benefits to the
and,
county going
Down into.
into this little pool through sites that are just going through our office.
yeah,
So it made more sense for the county to do
Okay.
that
Howell County.
than to have us do it.
okay, got it,
Unfortunately.
yeah,
I'm not gonna tell the commission, no, you need to go with me.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
the smart play is to do.
To these three counties were one
absolutely,
county.
I mean, they can always
That's why
add
the
that onto
city
your
of
commission
Dearborn
for
is
yours.
in Howell County. They-
For that good recommendation where you're saving them money, but I appreciate it, it was so nice to see you,
Very good.
thank you. And then I will be following up with those questions as well, so.
Now, Silver.
It's a nice Friday out. What's that? It's a nice Friday out. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go out to the golf course probably.
Because that's what we're in mind.
I think we close at noon anyway, so. That's what they should hire me for. Wouldn't get any maintenance done, but I see all the courses.
There you go.
All right. I'll see you guys. Have a good weekend.
See ya.
Good to see you, sir,
Good seeing
thank
you
you.
too, Bob. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe it was like late 1890s.
Alright, I feel like I just completed a
At
class.
the smelter here in Gary. They were still having
You know, that's complicated.
roads
complicated
and
topic.
infrastructure is everywhere else. And then when we're gonna split off. from-
Is that a 12C?
And do our own
Mike, is
thing.
that an
And by the way, we're also
HB12C?
gonna keep all the money from this.
Yes.
So they.
With
split
reverse
off,
Polish
And that
notation?
worked really well.
No, it's
As long
true.
as the smelters continued
That is,
on.
you enter the
But then the
numbers backwards.
smelters,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And
I
you
love
save
this
that
thing, cause I've used it,
Okay.
I've had this thing
And
for 30
they
years.
had
Yeah, from
no
college days, that's what-
land, ag,
Shit,
That's
I
two, I had a
Yeah, I love
15C,
this.
that's a business one, 15C was like,
pretty much.
you would program, you could take, and they let you use those,
Right.
but you could
And
program them, and I
so
went into my thermodynamics test
one
and I completed
employer,
it
the
in
basis of
15
the entire
years.
economy of everything
Cause I
else,
had it all programmed out,
they basically
uh,
went bankrupt.
then I decided to,
And it's like,
then I
well,
went through my work, I changed the answer, and I was wrong,
Why
the
would
first
we
answer
want
was
to
He
do
wants
that.
you guys to call him.
Who's he?
The windmill guy, windfarm guy.
Yeah.
He said when you guys get a minute to give him a
So
call.
that's the.
Well, if he's asking us
short version.
about whether we decided whether we're gonna do tax abatement, I'm not gonna support it.
Dear George, isn't there a prison there?
Yeah, you
That's
know,
in Powell County.
I'm toying with
Outside the
either
city.
25% or not, but I just
It's
don't think it's gonna make or break the project, and
Yeah,
we've given
yeah,
too much
here watch
tax
it.
relief to towns.
And that was put there.
What are you guys' thoughts?
I was thinking 25%.
Still, that's what there was basically run down.
Well, what do you think?
But then
Well,
when they redid the Montana Mill House.
I was thinking of
It was
giving
about
them
the same
initial
time this
Yeah,
winter.
yeah.
Over 3 or 4 years, and he's gonna.
Yeah, that's
And
gonna
so
phase out.
Graduate out.
in Montana State Hospital.
Well, the way it works is for the first 5 years, if you do the 25, you get 25, and then the next 5 years it'll go to
At
zero.
the time, I think now there's 10.
Maybe I could get on
Its
board
peak, there were
with
like.
that, but I just, honestly, I don't want, personally, I don't want the bonds.
The majority of them moved away.
And I don't think, without these subsidies, I don't think it's an industry that
But the ones
pays.
who are left, I mean,
We gotta
unemployment
think
was through the roof and
the income to the county and the people that work there.
Well, I'm thinking about it. But you're right, he's basically saying it'll bring the property value up to about $2 million.
But now the population
The
is
personal
small, the
property,
staff.
which we'll get a tax on after 10 years.
It's not really-
So I'm actually
State
thinking about
hospital,
that, guys.
over outside.
I'll do the 25%.
Interesting.
Problem is, and things will be
So stupid.
obsolete in 10 years, there won't be no property tax. That's what the guy from the
Well,
Red
that's what
Lodge told me. He
happens
said,
when
you know, these things depreciate so fast, that by the time you get the full property tax, they're gone.
Well, then why would we support it?
Yeah, good question.
The only reason you would support is if you thought that it would sink the project.
But the commissioners have been.
You know,
not to rely on that
appreciation.
final.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point, Mike.
That for the most.
Well, anyway, I only I brought that up is I probably wouldn't have asked.
I mean, they're using
Yeah,
some
some
for stuff that we.
Someone was telling me that, he said, you know, yeah,
Most.
and windmills do have a lifespan.
Putting it into various.
And by the time you get the full
investment
tax,
accounts that will-
he said the lifespan is almost over.
So it will continue to generate.
Well, to me, that's the
income for
no-brainer,
us
then don't do it.
Potentially another 2 generations.
The only reason you do it is if you thought you wanted the
Well,
full-time
it's not
jobs.
just in case,
Yeah.
because the nature of the
But-
mine is sooner or later
um,
they're gonna run out of stuff to dig up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they
Yeah,
have.
think
things-
about it.
Right,
I just think it's a horrible
Exactly.
use of land.
I mean, it's.
Do you have a birthday?
Do I?
if you look at,
I do have a birthday.
some-
It is March 22nd.
March
Look at the
22nd.
savages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You
I
know,
try to keep up on his birthday.
well, eventually.
Oh, that must have been about.
So it's in a day, it's,
That must have been
it's past.
2000.
No, 93.
Oh
No.
my God, no way.
93.
You're older than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, spell your name.
J-U-S-T-I-N-A.
The Saudi government, or if anyone.
What's J.U.S.?
T.I.
Country as fast as they
N.A.
can, because they've been investing all over the rest of the world, right?
And then Marshall.
Keep those investments.
I think I can get
The country itself will fall into total and complete anarchy and probably.
Oh, Melissa, get me on. I need Bonnie to update it.
Yeah,
I got all these birthdays.
Do you have a party?
Yeah, always.
Fantastic.
Where are they getting all?
No, you get an ugly old card and,
Oh, I like those.
do you?
I do. I put them up in my office.
Where?
No, and employees seem to appreciate it, so
Yes.
I'm trying to have a good PR.
Yes.
So.
Let someone know you're thinking about them.
There's no orange.
March.
I mean, how they can afford to have.
Well, it'll be a while.
Yep.
That, you know.
Just
and
past
they can
us.
afford to have aqueducts and everything. So they can afford the infrastructure.
But I assume
They
that
can afford that.
money has that.
Infrastructure,
Yeah.
that oil money's gone, it's gonna collapse hard and fast.
I only got one other birthday in March. Actually, a bad month for a birthday.
I don't think so.
Uh,
I mean, it's more special.
Never ever. Have I ever? Never have I ever.
Let's see, Frank came back, or he didn't get around.
Gentlemen, I had the
Yes.
opportunity to go back to the lease. My assessment is that if the board ceases to exist,
Okay,
and then they try and they cannot hand the lease off to someone else.
okay.
Okay, and then the change of the executive that the board appoints, that can change. However, the primary lessee here is the board who, acting through their executive, signed the lease, right? But so that board, as long as that board continues to exist, they're really the one who holds the lease, not her.
Right.
And so if that board if that board ceases to exist or tries to significantly change its form on its own, not just they need new members,
Yeah.
right? But, I mean, they change, they get to the point where they're having to file like a new 501c3 tax exempt form for some kind of a new entity. At that point in time, we don't have a lease with that entity, we have a lease with the current entity. Okay, so as long as that current entity continues existing, that lease is valid.
Okay. Well, and that makes sense, regardless of whether the original board members, doesn't matter, as long as they switch board members in accordance with their bylaws and all that stuff. But I don't think they have a quorum, I don't know.
We don't
So-
know at this point.
Nobody knows.
You had another question for me.
Okay.
What was it?
Confession,
No, I can't think of it, Dan.
Okay.
maybe. Let's not.
If you think of it,
Yeah, I will,
let me know.
yeah.
But, I mean, I was waiting for breaking the action to kind of say that was my determination about it.
Appreciate that. That whole thing's a mess.
Oh, it's horrible.
It is. But our concern in it is, I guess it's two-part. The primary concern is the treatment of our elderly population and making sure they have the services they need. The second part is, are they paying us the minimum?
Yeah, and right now, I guess we need to send them a letter that we are withdrawing our match.
Yeah, that's what I heard, so.
In other words, we give them so much money, we gotta let them know that we're not gonna give them the money because of the reasons that we're concerned about how the elderly are. So we've pulled our financial support. We provide match money for Area 2 to give them.
And that's up to you.
But we have till
That's
June
what you
30th.
need.
We're not delinquent after June 30th.
Right.
That's maybe what we talk about, maybe a little.
Okay.
Of course, we pay that to Area 2.
Right.
I imagine to the rent that we're not gonna get.
Well, I mean, you may wanna make sure you know where that money's going, because
Yeah.
there's a distinct possibility Area 2 can still find and have a way to assist in providing services to people who need those services, even if it's not through the current.
Excellent point.
Okay, and so,
It is a concern.
it is a concern, but
Yeah, just,
we want to maintain being on good terms with the agency that is functioning well and appropriately and providing the services we need. Whereas, and then they have the opportunity to be heavy-handed if necessary with their subordinate agency about whether or not the things are being done that actually require being done.
yeah, we've had that conversation with Area 2.
Well, I'm also concerned about the Meals on Wheels, the people who shut it. I talked to the hospital, they said they'd be willing to take over that program. Of course, they're gonna charge for it.
Okay.
Yeah, your point is Area 2's gonna
Well, they're
spend
gonna
money to
charge
somebody that's
for
gonna
it.
provide this rules.
But I mean, I'm sure the hospital could work something out with Area 2,
Exactly.
and Area 2 would be more
They
than
did
happy
do
to
it
work.
before,
Right.
but it was only, 2 days a week.
Yeah, they did it on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah, right. But they're willing to do it 5 days a week.
Okay. So that's good that there's at least that backup
Yeah.
plan.
That was one thing. The people that go in, well, I guess they'll have to go to McDonald's.
They're just out of luck. They can go to
But it's a
Melstone on
big
Tuesday
problem.
night.
I'm concerned about the seniors. I might be one someday. And I wanna know I'll be fed.
With good variety and
Yeah.
healthy portions.
No, not healthy.
They're not healthy and they're not portions, they're little tidbits.
Well, they're the state's minimum.
Minimum, that's the key.
So at least you got that.
Minimum.
But I can't say anything because I'm already a felon.
Not convicted. Accused, not convicted.
Oh, well, Mike wasn't in on it, were you in on that conversation?
Money, I should have taken it. But I did. I just went in and seen Tracy on my own.
So,
Cause I happened to go by, I thought, well,
You're not allowed to-
stop in and see if she'll just release that check. Nope, she wasn't gonna release it. Well,
So that's the question for Ben. So you looked at that as far as the lease goes. She just changed the rules in terms of who gets the check get made out for using the facility. Does she have the authority to do that?
Where is that written down? Sure, I mean,